The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched high above the marble floor, its crystalline ceiling reflecting the light of 1,000 distant stars. Representatives from 300 species sat in their designated seats, arranged in circles that rose toward the dome. At the center podium stood Councillor Vreth, a Talaxian whose silver skin gleamed under the artificial lights. His forearms gestured dramatically as he spoke about the newest resolution. Ambassador Deho sat in the human section, his face calm and expressionless. He wore the simple gray uniform that all human diplomats preferred, nothing fancy or decorated. Around him, other human representatives watched the proceedings with the same quiet attention they always showed. They had learned long ago that silence often said more than words in these chambers. Resolution 7749 is necessary for the continued prosperity of our great council, Vreth announced, his voice booming through the speakers. The junior species must contribute more to our collective security and growth. In return, we shall provide guidance and protection. Deho noticed the careful language. Vreth never said which species would lose their voting rights or how much more they would be required to give, but everyone in the chamber knew. This resolution targeted humanity specifically. Over the past 2 centuries, humans had become the engineers, the mechanics, the problem solvers of galactic civilization. The council had grown comfortable with this arrangement. Too comfortable. The humans should be grateful, Vreth continued, looking directly at Deho. 200 years ago, you were confined to a single world. We brought you into the stars. We gave you purpose. Is it too much to ask for proper appreciation? Several alien delegates made sounds of agreement. The Velothians clicked their mandibles softly. The Krathen hummed their approval. Only Ambassador Kix, an elderly Velothian female, remained silent in her seat, her large eyes watching Deho carefully. Deho stood slowly. The chamber fell quiet. Humans rarely spoke during council sessions unless directly addressed, and even then they kept their words brief. This had led many species to believe humans were naturally submissive or perhaps not very intelligent. Both assumptions were wrong. Councillor Vreth, Deho said, his voice steady and clear. Humanity has served this council faithfully for 2 centuries. We have built your transit networks. We have maintained your power grids. We have kept your cities running and your ships flying. We have asked for very little in return, just respect and fair treatment. And you have received both, Vreth interrupted, waving one of his hands dismissively. This resolution merely adjusts the balance of contributions. Surely you understand the greater good requires sacrifice from those most capable of giving. We understand perfectly, Deho replied, which is why I must inform the Council of Humanity's decision. He paused, and in that moment every human representative in the chamber stood as one. The coordinated movement sent a ripple of surprise through the alien delegates. We are leaving, Deho said simply. For 3 full seconds, silence filled the enormous chamber. Then laughter began. It started with Vreth, a deep rumbling sound that his species used to express amusement. Soon other delegates joined in. The Krathen honked. The Talaxians rumbled. Even some of the normally serious Velothians made soft chittering sounds. Leaving? Vreth repeated, still laughing. Leaving to go where? There is nowhere beyond council space except unexplored wilderness. You would abandon the safety and civilization we provide over a simple adjustment in policy? Yes, Deho answered. We would. And we are. The laughter died down slowly. Vreth's expression changed from amusement to annoyance. You are bluffing, Ambassador. Humanity depends on the Council for trade, for resources, for technology. You cannot simply leave. Watch us, Deho said. He gathered his documents, placed them in his case, and walked toward the exit. Every other human representative followed him. They moved in perfect order, calm and unhurried. Not a single human looked back. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. On space stations and colony worlds, on ships and outposts, humans began packing their belongings. They said polite goodbyes to their alien neighbors. They finished their current work shifts. They filed proper departure notices. Then they left. Captain Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the colony ship Silent Dawn, watching the display screens show hundreds of other human vessels gathering in the designated departure zone. He was a tall man with gray hair and steady hands, someone who had commanded ships for 30 years. Today would be his most important journey. All ships report ready, Captain, his communications officer announced. Any response from Council Control? Hyunwoo asked. They're demanding we return to our stations immediately. They say we're violating our service contracts. Hyunwoo smiled slightly. Tell them our contracts all have Clause 47. Any party can terminate with proper notice. We filed our notice 3 hours ago exactly as required by their own laws. The communication went out. The response came back quickly, angry and threatening. Hyunwoo ignored it. He had learned something important during his decades in council space. Bullies always threaten violence when their victims stop obeying. But the council couldn't actually attack humanity without looking like tyrants to every other species. That was the genius of Daeho's plan. Leave quietly, legally, and let the consequences speak for themselves. Set course for coordinates Delta 7, Hyunwoo ordered. Take us beyond the frontier. The Silent Dawn's engines activated, their blue glow illuminating the darkness of space. One by one, the other ships followed. It was the largest human fleet ever assembled, and it was leaving everything behind. On the capital world of the Council, in her engineering office overlooking the central power distribution center, Mi-yeon finished her last task. She was young for a chief engineer, only 35, but she had earned her position through pure skill. The entire Galactic Transit Network, the system that allowed faster-than-light travel between thousands of worlds, ran through computers she had personally designed and maintained. She typed a final sequence of commands, uploaded a complete technical manual to the Council's database, and logged out of her account. The manual contained every detail of how the network operated. It was written in precise technical language that met all Council requirements. Of course, understanding the manual would require someone with her level of expertise in quantum field mechanics, gravitational wave engineering, and transdimensional mathematics. The Council would find very few individuals with that combination of skills, especially now that all the humans were leaving. Mi-yeon picked up her small bag and walked out of the office. She had spent 5 years in this building, solving problems that alien engineers couldn't understand. She had worked 16-hour days and rarely complained. She had made the impossible look routine. And in return, the Council had decided humanity should have less say in their own future while doing more of the actual work. She felt no anger as she boarded the transport to the spaceport. Anger was wasteful. Instead, she felt something simpler: relief. Humans had been holding themselves back for decades, carefully avoiding innovations that might threaten the Council's sense of superiority. Now finally they could build without limits. Back in the Council chamber, Vreth was speaking to his fellow councilors. Let them go, he said confidently. Within a month they'll come crawling back when they realize how much they need us. Meanwhile, we'll show them how easily they can be replaced. Any species can turn a wrench or push buttons on a computer. Ambassador Kick said nothing, but her large eyes were troubled. She had worked with humans for 20 years. She had watched them solve problems that baffled the brightest minds of 100 species. She had seen them take failing systems and make them work better than their original designers had ever imagined. And she had noticed something the other counselors had missed. Humans never did just one job. They did dozens of small jobs that nobody else noticed. The tiny maintenance tasks that kept everything running smoothly. As the last human ship disappeared from the sensors, the lights in the Council chamber flickered once. Just a brief moment of instability, barely noticeable. Vreth didn't even look up from his datapad. But Keeks noticed, and she began to worry. 3 weeks had passed since the humans left. Counselor Vreth stood in the central operations room, staring at the massive display screen that showed the status of the Galactic Transit Network. Red warning indicators dotted the map like a disease spreading across healthy tissue. What started as minor glitches had grown into serious problems. Explain this again, Vreth demanded, pointing at the screen. Slowly. The Krathan technician, a bear-like creature named Gorth, shuffled his feet nervously. The hub connecting systems 47 through 93 has experienced a cascade failure. We cannot restore it. The human engineer who maintained that hub left detailed instructions, but the technical language is extremely complex. We need specialists in quantum resonance stabilization, and those specialists were all human. Then hire non-human specialists, Vreth snapped. We tried. There are only 12 individuals in Council space with the required expertise. None of them understand the specific configuration the humans used. The system is too interconnected, too delicate. One wrong adjustment could collapse the entire network. Vreth's silver skin darkened with frustration. The humans did this deliberately. They sabotaged the network before leaving. No, sir, Gorth said carefully. Our diagnostics show no sabotage. Everything simply stopped working without constant human maintenance. They were adjusting parameters every few hours, making tiny corrections that prevented system drift. We never realized how much work they were doing because they made it look effortless. The display screen flickered. Another red indicator appeared, this time in the core systems near the council capital. Vreth felt a cold sensation in his chest. If the network failed here, millions of beings would be stranded, unable to travel between worlds. On the agricultural world of Praxis 7, the situation was becoming desperate. The planet fed 17 billion beings across 40 systems. Its massive hydroponic farms had always been a miracle of efficiency, producing 3 times more food than any comparable facility. The secret was the growing algorithms developed by a human named Tai Yang. The Velothian farm manager stood in the control center, watching the plants wither in sections 12 through 38. The systems were still running, but something was wrong. The nutrient balance was off. The lighting cycles weren't quite right. He had Tai Yang's documentation, pages and pages of formulas and instructions, but reading them made his head hurt. "Try increasing the nitrogen by 0.03%, he ordered. The assistant made the adjustment. For 10 minutes, the plants seemed to stabilize. Then they began dying faster. "Decrease it. Go back to the original setting," the manager shouted. They spent 6 hours making tiny adjustments, chasing the perfect balance that Tai Yang had maintained effortlessly. By the end of the day, they had lost 15% of the crop in those sections. If this continued, Praxis 7 would face its first harvest failure in 70 years. Food prices across the council would skyrocket. In the medical station orbiting Veloth Prime, Dr. Kess checked on his patients for the evening. The station housed 40,000 individuals receiving treatment for various conditions, from simple injuries to complex diseases. It was one of the finest medical facilities in council space, with equipment that could heal almost anything. The lights dimmed for a moment. Kess looked up, frowning. That was the 3rd time today. He walked to the maintenance office and found 2 Talaxian technicians staring at a wall of complex machinery. "What's wrong?" Kess asked. "The backup power system," one technician replied. "It's not engaging properly. The humans who maintained it left instructions, but we can't follow them. There are references to modifications they made over the years, changes that aren't in the original design specifications." "Is it dangerous?" Kess asked quietly. The technician hesitated. "If the main power fails and the backup doesn't engage, yes." Kess felt his blood run cold. "How long do patients have if we lose all power?" "Life support will last maybe 20 minutes on emergency batteries. After that, the doctor didn't need him to finish. 40,000 patients. 20 minutes." He immediately ordered his staff to prepare emergency evacuation procedures, knowing they could never evacuate everyone in time if disaster struck. Ambassador Keek sat in her private office reading reports from across council space. Every day brought new problems. The faster-than-light drives on commercial ships were becoming unstable, requiring longer and longer recalibration periods. A physicist named Jinsel had been responsible for maintaining the quantum field equations that kept FTL travel safe and reliable. Without her constant adjustments, the drives were slowly drifting out of alignment. 3 ships had already experienced dangerous malfunctions. 1 had disappeared completely, its crew of 200 simply gone. Trade was slowing down. Goods weren't reaching their destinations on time. Prices were rising. On some worlds, shortages were beginning. Nothing critical yet, but Kix could see where this was heading. The council's economy was built on the assumption that everything worked perfectly. Remove that assumption, and the entire structure began to shake. She scheduled an emergency meeting with Vreth. When she arrived at his office, she found him reading a message on his datapad, his expression dark. "More bad news?" she asked. "The Krathan Commerce Guild is threatening to withdraw from the council," Vreth said. "They claim we cannot guarantee the safety of their trade routes. They're not wrong. We've had 17 major transit failures this week. We need to contact the humans," Kix said bluntly. "We need to ask them to return." "Absolutely not." Vreth stood up, his forearms gesturing sharply. "That would show weakness. The other species would lose confidence in council leadership. We solve this ourselves." "How?" "We've tried hiring new engineers. We've offered enormous salaries to any species that can fill the gaps. Nobody has the combination of skills the humans possessed. They weren't just workers, Vreth. They were the foundation everything else was built on." "They were servants who forgot their place," Vreth insisted. We gave them too much responsibility, made them too important. This situation will teach us to never make that mistake again. We'll diversify, train new specialists, reduce our dependence on any single species. That will take decades, Kix said. We don't have decades. We have weeks, maybe months before major systems start collapsing completely. Vreth sat back down, his confidence wavering for the first time. How did this happen? How did we not see how dependent we'd become? Kix had been thinking about that question constantly. Because they made it invisible. Every day, thousands of humans were solving small problems before they became big ones. They were maintaining systems, updating software, adjusting parameters, fixing tiny errors. It was all quiet, routine work that nobody paid attention to. We saw them as simple mechanics and engineers. We never realized they were holding our entire civilization together. A message alert appeared on Vreth's screen. He read it and his skin went pale. The medical station at Veloth Prime has lost main power. Backup systems failed to engage. They're running on emergency batteries. Kix stood up quickly. How long do they have? 20 minutes. They both ran to the communications center. Vreth sent emergency messages to every rescue ship in range, but the nearest one was 40 minutes away. They watched the clock count down, helpless. At 18 minutes, the station's chief engineer managed to manually override the backup system, using a procedure he found in the human maintenance logs. Power restored with 90 seconds to spare. 40,000 patients lived. But the message was clear. Without humans, people were going to die. That night, Kix composed a message and sent it toward the coordinates where the human fleet had disappeared. The message was simple. We understand now. We were wrong. Please help us. She sent it knowing there might be no response. The humans had been insulted, dismissed, and taken for granted for 2 centuries. They had finally found the strength to walk away. Why would they come back? The message traveled through space at the speed of light, reaching farther and farther into the darkness. Days passed with no reply. The Council waited, and with each passing day, more systems failed. The cracks in galactic civilization grew wider, spreading like fractures in breaking glass. In the Council chamber, Vreth called an emergency session. He stood at the central podium, looking at the faces of representatives from 300 species. For the first time in his career, he had no answers, no confident speeches, no grand plans. We have a problem, he began, his voice lacking its usual booming certainty. And we need to discuss our options. But everyone in the chamber already knew the truth. They didn't have options. They had one option. They needed the humans back. The question was whether the humans would ever forgive them enough to return. 2 months after the humans left, the Galactic Council was dying. Not quickly, with explosions and battles, but slowly, like a body whose organs were shutting down one by one. Councillor Vreth sat in his office, surrounded by reports he no longer wanted to read. Each one brought worse news than the last. The security breach had started 3 days ago. Someone had hacked into the Council's central banking system and stolen financial data on every member species. Then they published it publicly. Centuries of secret deals, hidden payments, and corrupt arrangements were suddenly visible to everyone. The scandal was destroying what little trust remained between Council members. Vreth knew who was responsible. A human named Sunho had designed the Council's cybersecurity systems 15 years ago. He had built firewalls and protection protocols so sophisticated that no one had successfully attacked Council networks in over a decade. When he left, he took that expertise with him. And apparently, he knew exactly where all the weak points were. The Council's new security team was helpless. They tried updating passwords, installing new defensive software, and blocking suspicious traffic. Nothing worked. Every day brought new breaches. Financial records, military communications, personal messages between councilors. Everything was being leaked to the public. The Council's authority was built on a certain amount of secrecy and dignity. Both were evaporating. "Sir, there's another situation," Vreth's assistant said, entering the office nervously. "The Dravian Alliance has declared war on the Korthan Republic." Vreth felt something break inside him. What, they had a peace treaty? That treaty has held for 30 years. The treaty was mediated by a human named Jiwon, the assistant explained. She spent 5 years negotiating every detail, building personal relationships between both sides, creating communication channels and dispute resolution procedures. With her gone, small disagreements started escalating. 3 days ago, a trade dispute turned violent. Now both sides are mobilizing their fleets. Send peacekeepers, Vreth ordered. We tried. The Velothian peacekeeping force withdrew last week. They claim the Council can no longer guarantee their supply lines or communication security. They're right. We can't. Vreth stood up and walked to the window. Outside he could see the great plaza of the Council capital. Usually it was filled with beings from hundreds of species going about their business. Today it was mostly empty. People were staying home, afraid to travel. Afraid that ships would malfunction, that food wouldn't arrive, that the infrastructure they depended on would fail at any moment. How many wars now? Vreth asked quietly. The Dravian-Korthan conflict makes 3. The Velothians are fighting with the Krathan over trade routes. The Talaxian colonies are having internal conflicts over resource distribution. G1 mediated all of them, didn't she? Yes, sir. She was chief xenodiplomacy specialist. Her job was preventing exactly these kinds of conflicts. The Council assigned her to every major dispute because she had a 93% success rate. No one else came close. Vreth realized something he should have understood long ago. Humans had been everywhere, doing everything, holding the entire galactic civilization together through sheer competence and hard work. They had never demanded recognition or special treatment. They just did the job day after day, year after year, and the Council had responded by trying to exploit that dedication even further. A message arrived on his terminal. It was from Ambassador Kix, marked urgent. He opened it and felt his heart sink. Emergency Council session in 1 hour. 6 member species are planning to announce their withdrawal from the Council. They're forming their own alliance. They think they have a better chance of survival on their own. The Council was fragmenting. 3,000 years of unity, ending because humans had quietly walked away and revealed how hollow that unity really was. In the Council chamber an hour later, chaos replaced the usual dignity. Representatives were shouting at each other, blaming each other, demanding solutions no one could provide. Vreth watched it all from the central podium, unable to restore order. "This is your fault," a Krathan delegate bellowed, pointing at Vreth. "You drove the humans away with your arrogance." The humans were employees. Vreth shouted back. "They worked for us. They should have been grateful." "They were partners," Ambassador Kix said, her voice cutting through the noise. The chamber fell silent. Everyone respected Kix. She had served on the Council longer than anyone else alive. They were partners, and we treated them like servants. Now we're paying the price for that mistake. So what do we do? A Velothian representative asked. How do we fix this? We already sent messages begging them to return, Vreth said. They haven't responded. What else can we do? Maybe we take back what's ours, a Talaxian military commander suggested. Send a fleet. Force them to return. They're only human. They can't stand against our combined might. Several representatives made sounds of agreement. Kix stood up, her elderly body shaking with anger. You would start a war. Attack them for the crime of leaving when we treated them poorly? That would make us monsters. And it would fail. You think the humans spent 2 centuries working on our ships without learning their every weakness? You think they didn't prepare for this possibility? She's right, Vreth admitted, surprising himself. The humans knew. They planned this. They probably knew for years that eventually we'd push too far. They were ready. A message alert appeared on the chamber's main display. It was a transmission from deep space, from outside Council territory. The return identifier showed it was from human ships. Play it, Kix ordered. The screen showed a young human woman. She had dark hair pulled back simply, and she wore a plain jumpsuit with no decorations. Her name appeared at the bottom of the screen. Yuna, Human Deep Space Communications. This message is for the Galactic Council, Yuna said. Her voice was calm and professional. We've received your requests for assistance. We've received your threats. We've watched your civilization begin to fail. Some of you have asked why we're not helping. Some of you have asked what it would take for us to return. I'm here to provide an answer. The chamber was completely silent. Every representative leaned forward, desperate to hear. We are not coming back, Yuna continued. We tried for 200 years to build something with you. We worked hard. We solved your problems. We asked only for respect and fair treatment. Instead, you saw our helpfulness as weakness. You saw our dedication as servitude. You decided we should have less power while doing more work. She paused, and her expression hardened slightly. So we left. And now you're learning what happens when you take essential people for granted. Your infrastructure is failing because we built it and maintained it. Your economy is collapsing because we kept it running. Your peace treaties are breaking because we mediated them. Your ships are malfunctioning because we calibrated them. We weren't just workers. We were the foundation your entire civilization stood on. But we can fix it, Yuna said, and for a moment, hope flickered in the chamber. Then she crushed it. You can fix it. Given enough time, enough resources, enough dedication, you can learn to do what we did. It might take decades. It might take centuries, but you can do it. You'll have to. We tried to build with you, she finished. You wanted servants instead. So build your own civilization now. We're busy building ours. The transmission ended. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then chaos erupted again, worse than before. Freth tried to restore order but failed. Finally, Ambassador Kix called for a vote of no confidence. The motion passed overwhelmingly. Freth was removed from power, replaced by an emergency council led by Kix and 2 other senior ambassadors. Their first action was to send another message to human space. This one was different. No demands, no threats, no attempts to preserve pride or dignity. We were wrong. We are sorry. We need help, please. The message went out into the darkness. Days passed. The council continued to fracture. Food riots broke out on 12 worlds. 2 more wars started. The transit network failed in 3 major hubs, stranding millions of travelers. The medical supplies network collapsed, leaving hospitals without critical medicines. On the 15th day after the new message was sent, a response came back. It was text only, just 3 words from Ambassador Deho. We are discussing. It wasn't yes. It wasn't no. It was the smallest possible thread of hope. The council clung to it desperately, knowing they had no other choice. They had learned a lesson that would echo through galactic history forever. The people you need most are the ones you should treasure most, because the day they walk away quietly is the day your world ends. Captain Hyunwoo, now promoted to admiral, stood on the observation deck of the station humanity had named New Dawn. Through the massive windows, he could see 30 human colonies spread across a dozen star systems. Ships moved between them constantly, carrying supplies, people, and ideas. In just 3 months, humanity had built something remarkable. It's beautiful, isn't it? Mion said, joining him at the window. She had been busy designing the infrastructure for their new civilization. Without council restrictions, she had implemented technologies that humans had been forced to keep hidden for decades. It's everything we should have been allowed to build years ago, Hyunwoo replied. No committees telling us our innovations were too dangerous. No regulations designed to keep us inferior. We're finally free to reach our full potential. A young explorer named Jiho rushed onto the observation deck, his face excited. Admiral, we found something. You need to see this. They followed him to the command center where a holographic display showed a distant planet. The scans revealed massive structures buried beneath the surface, clearly artificial but ancient beyond measure. How ancient? Hyunwoo asked. At least 50,000 years, Jiho replied. The structures are made of materials we don't recognize. The technology appears to be more advanced than anything the Council has. Admiral, this could change everything. Mion studied the scans carefully. Send a research team. Full security escort. Whatever built these structures might still be there. As they discussed the discovery, an alarm sounded. The communications officer looked up from her station. Admiral, we have incoming ships, non-human. They're broadcasting a distress signal. Species? Hyunwoo asked. Velothian. About 30 vessels, most of them damaged. They're requesting permission to enter our space. Hyunwoo and Mion exchanged glances. This was the moment they had known would come. Other species fleeing the Council's collapse, seeking help from the humans they had once dismissed. Tell them they can approach, but slowly. Have our defense fleet escort them in. An hour later, Ambassador Kix stood in the conference room of New Dawn Station, facing Hyunwoo, Mion, and Ambassador Deho, who had come out of retirement to handle this situation. Kix looked older than when they had last met. Her large eyes were tired, her movements slower. Behind her, through the window, her damaged ships hung in space like wounded birds. Thank you for seeing me, Kix said quietly. I know you have no reason to help us. Why are you here, Ambassador? Deho asked. His voice wasn't unkind, but it wasn't warm either. The Krathen attacked my people's trade convoy. We tried to fight back, but our ships weren't maintained properly. Half our weapons didn't work. Our shields failed. We barely escaped. She paused, gathering her strength. The Council is dying, Deho. 3 major wars, food shortages, systems failing everywhere. Species are turning on each other. Everything you built is falling apart. We didn't build it, Mion said sharply. We maintained it. There's a difference. The Council built a civilization on a foundation they didn't understand and couldn't maintain without us. You're right, Kik said, and I should have told Vreth that when he proposed Resolution 7749. I should have fought harder for humanity. I didn't, and I'm sorry. My people are sorry. We're here asking for asylum. We have 30 ships carrying about 15,000 Velothians. We have nothing to offer except our willingness to work and learn. We'll accept any terms you set. Daiho looked at Hyunwoo and Mion. They had discussed this possibility many times. The question was whether humanity wanted to repeat the same pattern, becoming the foundation for another civilization that would take them for granted. Give us time to discuss, Daiho said. We'll provide you with food, medical supplies, and temporary docking while we make our decision. After Kix left, the three humans sat in silence for a long moment. We have to help them, Mion said finally, not because we owe them anything, but because it's who we are. We help, we build, we solve problems. That hasn't changed. But we can't let ourselves become servants again, Hyunwoo said. If we help every species that comes here asking for rescue, we'll end up in the same situation as before. Daiho nodded slowly. Then we help, but on our terms. We create something new. Not a council where some species are superior to others, but a true alliance of equals. Over the next week, more ships arrived. Some were refugees fleeing violence. Others were explorers curious about what humans were building. A few were mercenaries hired by the council to force humans back. But they defected immediately when they saw human settlements thriving while council space burned. One ship arrived carrying a Talaxian military commander named Thrank. He came with weapons armed, demanding that humans return immediately to repair council infrastructure. Admiral Hyunwoo met his ship personally, aboard the human vessel Ironside, commanded by Captain Minjae. Minjae was a compact woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for tactical brilliance. You will return to council space, Thrank announced over the communication channel, or we will force you. Force us how? Hyunwoo asked calmly. I have 300 ships under my command. The largest fleet assembled in modern history. You have maybe 50 vessels in this entire sector. Surrender now and we'll be merciful. Hyunwoo looked at Minjae. She smiled slightly. Captain Minjae, would you mind demonstrating what we've built out here? It would be my pleasure, Admiral. The Ironside powered up systems that weren't visible on any scanner the Council possessed. In 30 seconds, targeting computers locked onto 30 Council ships simultaneously. Minjae didn't fire weapons. Instead, she activated a quantum disruptor that shut down the ship's power systems completely. No damage, no casualties, just 30 massive warships floating dead in space. What did you do? Thrank screamed over the channel. We showed you what humans really built during our time with the Council, Hyunwoo replied. We learned everything about your ships, your weapons, your systems. We built defenses you can't overcome and weapons you can't match. We held ourselves back for 2 centuries to avoid threatening you. We don't have to do that anymore. On Minjae's display, the technological gap was obvious. Human ships had achieved breakthroughs in energy generation, defensive shielding, and weapons accuracy that the Council wouldn't reach for decades, all because humans were finally free to innovate without artificial restrictions. The Council is over, Commander Thrank, Hyunwoo continued. You can accept that peacefully or you can keep fighting. But you cannot win, and the more you fight, the less willing we'll be to help rebuild when you finally accept reality. Thrank's ships powered down their weapons. They had no choice. That evening, Daiho called a gathering of human leaders to make a decision. They met in a simple hall, nothing grand or decorated. Democracy among humans had always been straightforward and practical. We have a choice, Daiho said. We can stay isolated, build our own civilization, and let the Council collapse completely. Or we can help, but in a completely new way. I vote we help, but we remake the entire structure of galactic government. No more Council. No more species ranked as superior or inferior. Everyone equal, everyone contributing, everyone respected. The debate lasted 3 hours. Some wanted isolation, others wanted revenge. But most agreed with Daiho. Humanity's strength had always been building, not destroying. They would help, but they would do it right this time. The decision was made. Daiho composed a message to send to Council space. We will help you, but the Galactic Council is finished. We're building something new, a federation based on equality and mutual respect. Any species can join, but none will dominate. If you want our help, you help us build this new system. Those are our terms, the message went out. And slowly, carefully, humanity began the work of rebuilding galactic civilization, this time making sure the foundation was strong enough to last. Admiral Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the Ironside, watching 300 Council warships approach human space. They came in battle formation, weapons powered up, looking like a force that could conquer anything. Behind him, Captain Min-jae monitored her tactical display with calm confidence. Around them, only 50 human vessels waited. "They're hailing us," the communications officer reported. "It's Commander Threnk again. Put him on screen." Threnk appeared on the main display, his expression hard. Behind him, Hyun-woo could see a new face, a Talaxian counselor named Thren, who had replaced the emergency council after they failed to restore order. "Humans," Thren said, his voice carrying the same arrogance that Vreth had once shown. "You have 20 minutes to power down your vessels and prepare for escort back to council space. You will restore our infrastructure and resume your duties. If you refuse, we will destroy your settlements and take you by force." Hyun-woo glanced at Min-jae. She was already running combat calculations, but her expression said the same thing he was thinking. This would not be a difficult fight. "Counselor Thren," Hyun-woo said calmly, "you're making the same mistake your predecessors made. You think we're weak because we prefer peace. You think you can force us because you have more ships. Both assumptions are wrong." "You're bluffing," Thren replied. "We know your technology. We built most of it." "No," Hyun-woo corrected. "We built most of it. You just used it." "There's a difference," he nodded to Min-jae. She activated the Ironside's primary weapons system, something humanity had spent the last 3 months perfecting. The ship's quantum-entangled targeting system locked onto every council vessel simultaneously. It was technology the council had never seen, because humans had been forbidden from researching it. "Too dangerous," the old council had said. "Too destabilizing." "Captain Min-jae," Hyun-woo said formally, "please demonstrate what human engineering can accomplish when we're not holding ourselves back." Min-jae touched her control panel. In exactly 30 seconds, precision energy pulses hit 30 council ships, disabling their weapon systems completely without damaging anything else. No explosions, no casualties, just sudden helplessness. "That's 30 ships," Hyun-woo said. "We can do that every 30 seconds for as long as needed. Or you can listen to what we have to say." On the display, Thren's confident expression crumbled. Behind him, alarms were sounding on his ship as crew members shouted reports about weapons failures. "You taught us an important lesson, Counselor," Hyun-woo continued. "You taught us that we don't need you. We don't need your approval. We don't need your permission. We're stronger without your limitations. We're happier without your disrespect. So here's what's going to happen. You can attack, and we'll disable your entire fleet without killing anyone. Or you can listen to our terms for rebuilding galactic civilization." Thren looked at someone off-screen, probably his military advisors. Hyun-woo could imagine their panicked faces as they realized human technology had leaped decades ahead in just 3 months. "What terms?" Thren asked finally. "The Galactic Council is dissolved," Hyun-woo stated. "It was built on inequality and exploitation. We're creating something new. The Galactic Federation. Every species equal. Every voice heard. Decisions made democratically, not by a ruling elite. We'll share our technology freely, but we'll never be taken for granted again." "You can't dissolve the council," Thren said weakly. "It's existed for 3,000 years. "It existed until humans walked away," Hyun-woo replied. "Then it collapsed in 3 months. That proves it was never as strong as you believed. Now you have a choice. Join the Federation as an equal partner, or try to rebuild the council alone. But understand this, if you choose to fight us, you'll lose. And if you walk away, you'll face the same problems that brought you here. No one else can maintain the systems humans built." Ambassador Daeho's face appeared in a smaller window on the screen. He had been listening from New Dawn Station. "Counselor Thren, I'd like to add something. The Federation isn't just about humans and council species. In the past 3 months, we've had contact with 40 species who never joined the council. Species who were told they weren't advanced enough or important enough. They're joining the Federation. New ideas, new technologies, new perspectives. The galaxy is much bigger and more diverse than the council ever allowed it to be." A new voice spoke from the council flagship. Ambassador Kix had been brought along as an advisor. "Thran, listen to them. I've spent the last week living with the humans. I've seen what they've built. It's beautiful. It's fair. It's everything the council should have been but never was. We lost our way centuries ago. The humans are offering us a chance to find it again. Thren was silent for a long moment. Hyunwoo could see him struggling with pride, with tradition, with the reality that everything had changed. If we agree, Thren said slowly, what happens to the council territories? The established governments? The power structures? They're reformed, Daeho answered. Democratically. Every world gets representation. Every species gets respect. The corrupt systems are dismantled. But we do it together, peacefully. Humans will help rebuild infrastructure. But this time we work as partners. Equal partners. Min-jae spoke quietly to Hyunwoo. Admiral, I'm detecting other ships approaching. Not Council. They're broadcasting Federation identification codes. On the tactical display, dozens of vessels appeared. Velothian ships that had joined the Federation. Krathan merchants who saw a better future. Even some Talaxian colonies that had broken away from the Council. They weren't coming to fight. They were coming to witness the birth of something new. Thren saw them too. His fleet was outnumbered now and outmatched technologically. But more importantly, he was witnessing proof that species were choosing the Federation freely. Choosing hope over control. Partnership over hierarchy. I need to consult with the other council members, Thren said. You have 1 hour, Hyunwoo replied. After that we're moving forward with or without you. The connection ended. Min-jae powered down the weapons systems. Do you think they'll agree? They don't have a choice, Hyunwoo said. But I hope they choose willingly. We don't want to rule them. We just want to build something better. 53 minutes later, Thren called back. His expression was different now, less arrogant, more tired. We agree to your terms. The council will be dissolved. We'll join the Federation. Thank you, Counselor, Daeho said, appearing on screen again. You've made the right choice. Now let's start the real work. The next 6 months were chaos, but productive chaos. The old council territories were reorganized. Elections were held. Corrupt officials were removed. Humans worked alongside aliens to rebuild infrastructure. But this time everyone understood the value of what was being created. Mion led engineering teams that trained thousands of beings from dozens of species. Knowledge was shared freely instead of hoarded. On the old council homeworld, workers dismantled the grand chamber where Vreth had once stood. In its place they built something simpler and more beautiful. A circular meeting hall where every species had equal seating, no hierarchy, no elevated positions. Just partners sitting together. A monument was erected in the plaza outside. It was simple stone with words carved in 100 languages. Here stood those who forgot that respect cannot be demanded, only earned. They learned this truth. The ones you need most are the ones you should treasure most, because the day they walk away quietly is the day your world ends. 2,000 species joined the Federation in the first year. Not all of them were from Council space. Species who had been exploring alone or living in isolation heard about the new system and wanted to be part of it. The galaxy was connecting in ways it never had before. 5 years after the humans left the Council, Daeho retired to a small colony world called Haven. It was peaceful there with green hills and quiet forests. He built a simple house and spent his days reading and thinking. One afternoon, a young Velothian child came to his door. Her name was Kess, daughter of Ambassador Kix. She was studying galactic history in school. Ambassador Daeho? She asked shyly. My teacher said I could interview you for my history project. Daeho smiled and invited her to sit on his porch. They watched the sunset together, the sky turning orange and purple. Is it true humans once served the Council? Kess asked. We never served anyone, Daeho said gently. We helped. There's a difference. When you help someone, it's a choice. When you serve them, they control you. We chose to help the Council for 200 years, but they forgot we were choosing. They started treating our help as their right. What made you leave? They pushed too far. They wanted more from us while giving us less respect. So we taught them a lesson. What lesson? Kess asked, her large eyes curious. Daeho thought about how to explain it in a way a child could understand. Imagine you have a friend who always asks you to help with their homework. At first they say thank you. They appreciate your help. But then they start demanding you do their homework. They stop saying thank you. They tell you that you should be grateful they let you help them. What would you do? I'd stop helping them, Kess said immediately. Exactly. And that's what we did. We stopped helping. We walked away. And the council learned that the people who help you are more important than the people who rule you. But you came back, Kess pointed out. You helped rebuild everything. We did. But this time it's different. This time everyone is equal. Everyone helps each other. No one is a servant. Kess nodded thoughtfully. My mother says humans saved the galaxy. No, Deho corrected gently. We didn't save it. We taught it to save itself. We showed everyone that civilization isn't built by rulers and servants. It's built by partners working together. The girl smiled and thanked him for the interview. As she walked away, Deho felt at peace. Humanity hadn't conquered the galaxy. They hadn't become rulers or overlords. They had done something more important. They had shown the galaxy how to build something fair and lasting. In orbit above the planet, Federation ships passed by regularly. Human vessels working alongside Velothian, Krathan, Talaxian, and dozens of other species. All equals. All partners. All building toward a future that belonged to everyone. Deho watched the stars emerge as darkness fell. Somewhere out there, on thousands of worlds, beings were living better lives because humans had found the courage to walk away from injustice. That was the real victory. Not conquest or revenge, but the simple act of refusing to accept disrespect and building something better instead. The monument's words echoed in his mind one last time. The ones you need most are the ones you should treasure most. The galaxy had learned that lesson the hard way. But they had learned it. And that made all the difference.